Hello everyone, and welcome to Soft Stories. I'm Stratton, and today we are going to be reading a new book. Well, as is customary on Soft Stories, it is not really a new book, but it is a book that is new to me, and I have a feeling it will be new to all of you, too. This little book here is by Arnold Bennett, and the name of it is How to Live on 24 Hours a Day. When I saw this in my local second-hand bookshop, I was intrigued. I didn't quite know what to make of it. How to live on 24 hours a day. But when I picked it up off the shelf and began to thumb through its pages, I discovered that it's a sort of how-to guide. One of those self-help books which were all the rage for a while, though I think they've fallen out of popularity slightly since the mid-2000s. It's a book that was written originally in the early 1900s, and I believe this is a first edition of the book. Yes, copyright 1910. By George H. Doran Company. That's not a publisher with which I'm particularly familiar, but more than the title of the book, I was intrigued by its physicality. It's a small little volume with beautiful gold embossing on the spine and on the pages, much like an old Bible might have. I wonder whether the author wasn't hoping to invite the comparison, a Bible for your everyday life. Just inside the cover, it has this lovely design in colours which I am particularly fond of. Blues and yellows and creams, which all swirl together in a vaguely floral, but also reminiscent of water capacity. It's a nice design, I like it. There's something also a little bit amoeba-esque about these small white outline shapes here. And so I was intrigued by this book. And when I began to thumb through it, it seemed like something that I would enjoy reading, and something, perhaps, that you would enjoy sharing with me. I will, however, say that because it was published in 1910, there's probably going to be a lot of gendered language in here. It's probably going to talk about the man of today and what he can do to improve his life. And while that's not necessarily an evil thing, it is something with which we in the 21st century often try to avoid. And so I hope that in reading this we can keep that in mind, understand that it is of its time, and perhaps there'll be something in here which can apply to everyone's life. Though I think more likely it will be an interesting relic of the past. So, without further ado, I think we should begin with Chapter 1, The Daily Miracle. Yes, he's one of those men that don't know how to manage. Good situation, regular income, quite enough for luxuries as well as needs. Not really extravagant. And yet, the fellow's always in difficulties. Somehow he gets nothing out of his money. Excellent flat, half empty. Always looks as if he'd had the brokers in. New suit, old hat, magnificent necktie, baggy trousers. Asks you to dinner, cut glass, bad mutton, or Turkish coffee, cracked cup. He can't understand it. Explanation simply is that he fritters his income away. Wish I had the half of it. I'd show him. So we have most of us criticized at one time or another in our superior way. We are nearly all chancellors of the exchequer. It is the pride of the moment. Newspapers are full of articles explaining how to live on such and such a sum, and these articles provoke a correspondence whose violence proves the interest they excite. Recently, in a daily organ, a battle raged round the question whether a woman can exist nicely in the country on £85 a year. I have seen an essay, How to Live on 8 shillings a Week, but I have never seen an essay, How to Live on 24 hours a day. Yet it has been said that time is money. That proverb understates the case. Time is a great deal more than money. If you have time, you can obtain money, usually. But though you have the wealth of a cloakroom attendant at the Carlton Hotel, you cannot buy yourself a minute more time than I have, or the cat by the fire has. Philosophers have explained space. They have not explained time. It is the inexplicable raw material of everything. With it, all is possible. Without it, nothing. The supply of time is truly a daily miracle, an affair genuinely astonishing when one examines it. You wake up in the morning, and lo, your purse is magically filled with 24 hours of the unmanufactured tissue of the universe of your life. It is yours. It is the most precious of possessions. A highly singular commodity, showered upon you in a manner as singular as the commodity itself. For remark, no one can take it from you. It is unstealable. And no one receives either more or less than you receive. Talk about an ideal democracy. In the realm of time, there is no aristocracy of wealth, and no aristocracy of intellect. Genius is never rewarded by even an extra hour a day, and there is no punishment. Waste your infinitely precious commodity as much as you will, and the supply will never be withheld from you. No mysterious power will say, "This man is a fool, if not a knave. He does not deserve time. He shall be cut off at the meter. It is more certain than consols, and payment of income is not affected by Sundays. Moreover, you cannot draw on the future. Impossible to get into debt. You can only waste the passing moment. You cannot waste tomorrow. It is kept for you. You cannot waste the next hour. It is kept for you. I said the affair was a miracle. Is it not? You have to live on this 24 hours of daily time. Out of it, you have to spin health, pleasure, money, content, respect, and the evolution of your immortal soul. Its right use, its most effective use, is a matter of the highest urgency and the most thrilling actuality. All depends on that. Your happiness, the elusive prize that you are all clutching for, my friends, depends on that. Strange that the newspapers, so enterprising and up-to-date as they are not full of how to live on a given income of time, instead of how to live on a given income of money. Money is far commoner than time. When one reflects, one perceives that money is just about the commonest thing there is. It encumbers the earth in gross heaps. If one can't contrive to live on a certain income of money, one earns a little more, or steals it, or advertises for it. One doesn't necessarily muddle one's life, because one can't quite manage on £1,000 a year. One braces the muscles and makes it guineas, and balances the budget. But if one cannot arrange that an income of 24 hours a day shall exactly cover all proper items of expenditure, one does muddle one's life, definitely. The supply of time, though gloriously regular, is cruelly restricted. Which of us lives on 24 hours a day? And when I say lives, I do not mean exists, nor muddles through. Which of us is free from that uneasy feeling that the great spending departments of his daily life are not managed as they ought to be? Which of us is quite sure that his fine suit is not surmounted by a shameful hat, or that in attending to the crockery he has forgotten the quality of the food? Which of us is not saying to himself, which of us has not been saying to himself all his life, I shall alter that when I have a little more time? We never shall have any more time. We have, and we have always had, all the time there is. It is the realization of this profound and neglected truth, which, by the way, I have not discovered, that has led me to the minute, practical examination of daily time expenditure. Chapter 2. The desire to exceed one's program. But, some may remark, with fine English disregard of everything except the point, what is he driving at with his 24 hours a day? I have no difficulty in living on 24 hours a day. I do all that I want to do, and still find time to go in for newspaper competitions. Surely it is a simple affair, knowing that one has 24 hours a day, to content oneself with 24 hours a day. To you, my dear sir, I present my excuses and apologies. You are precisely the man that I have been wishing to meet for about 40 years. Will you kindly send me your name and address, and state your charge for telling me how you do it? Instead of me talking to you, you should be talking to me. Please, come forward. That you exist, I am convinced, and that I have not yet encountered you is my loss. Meanwhile, until you appear, I will continue to chat with my companions in distress, that innumerable band of souls who are haunted more or less painfully by the feeling that the years slip by and slip by and slip by, and that they have not yet been able to get their lives into proper working order. If we analyze that feeling, we shall perceive it to be, primarily, one of uneasiness, of expectation, of looking forward, of aspiration. It is a source of constant discomfort, for it behaves like a skeleton at the feast of all our enjoyments. We go to the theatre and laugh, but between the acts it raises a skinny finger at us. We rush violently for the last train, and while we are cooling a long age on the platform waiting for the last train, it promenades its bones up and down by our side and inquires, "O man, what hast thou done with thy youth? What art thou doing with thine age?" You may urge that this feeling of continuous looking forward, of aspiration, is part of life itself, and inseparable from life itself. True, but there are degrees. A man may desire to go to Mecca. His conscience tells him that he ought to go to Mecca. He fares forth, either by the aid of cooks or unassisted. I presume that Cook's was a guide for travel at some point during the period where this was written. He may probably never reach Mecca. He may drown before he gets to Port Said. He may perish ingloriously on the coast of the Red Sea. His desire may remain eternally frustrate. Unfulfilled aspiration may always trouble him. But he will not be tormented in the same way as the man who, desiring to reach Mecca, and harried by the desire to reach Mecca, never leaves Brixton. It is something to have left Brixton. Most of us have not left Brixton. We have not even taken a cab to Ludgate Circus and inquired from Cook's the price of a conducted tour. And our excuse to ourselves is that there are only 24 hours in the day. If we further analyze our vague, uneasy aspiration, we shall, I think, see that it springs from a fixed idea that we ought to do something in addition to those things which we are loyally and morally obliged to do. We are obliged, by various codes written and unwritten, to maintain ourselves and our families, if any, in health and comfort, to pay our debts, to save, to increase our prosperity by increasing our efficiency. A task sufficiently difficult, a task which very few of us achieve, a task often beyond our skill. Yet, if we succeed in it, as we sometimes do, we are not satisfied. The skeleton is still with us. And even when we realize that the task is beyond our skill, that our powers cannot cope with it, we feel that we should be less discontented if we gave to our powers, already overtaxed, something still further to do. And such is, indeed, the fact. The wish to accomplish something outside their formal program is common to all men who in the course of evolution have risen past a certain level. Until an effort is made to satisfy that wish, the sense of uneasy waiting for something to start, which has not started, will remain to disturb the peace of the soul. That wish has been called by many names. It is one form of the universal desire for knowledge, and it is so strong that men whose whole lives have been given to the systematic acquirement of knowledge have been driven by it to overstep the limits of their program in search of still more knowledge. Even Herbert Spencer, in my opinion the greatest mind that ever lived, was often forced by it into agreeable little backwaters of inquiry. I imagine that in the majority of people who are conscious of the wish to live, that is to say, people who have intellectual curiosity, the aspiration to exceed formal programs takes a literary shape. They would like to embark on a course of reading. Decidedly, the British people are becoming more and more literary. But I would point out that literature by no means comprises the whole field of knowledge, and that the disturbing thirst to improve oneself, to increase one's knowledge, may well be slaked quite apart from literature. With the various ways of slaking I shall deal later. Here I merely point out to those who have no natural sympathy with literature that literature is not the only well. Here I think we will end our reading for today, but I must say that this is quite fascinating. I did not expect this at all. I'm really enjoying it, and I hope that you are too. I really look forward to reading further, as someone for whom time always does seem just a little bit limited. There's too much to do, too much to experience in this life. And with that in mind, I must thank you for taking some time out of your 24 hours in the day to spend it with me. I hope you've enjoyed these first 2 chapters of How to Live on 24 Hours a Day by Arnold Bennett, and I hope to see you soon. Until then, I wish you all the best, and goodbye.